This is the unbelievable true story of how my own brother burned down my restaurant and how I used his inheritance to rebuild it even bigger and better. Growing up, my parents always favored my younger brother Caleb. He could do no wrong in their eyes, while I was constantly scrutinized. They praised him for minor achievements, like making the JV basketball team, but skipped my academic decathlon state finals where I placed second. For college, I worked 2 jobs to pay my own tuition, while Caleb got a free ride and a new car from our parents. The only person who truly appreciated me was my grandfather. He wasn't outwardly affectionate, but he showed his love through thoughtful gestures, like having coffee ready for me or secretly helping me financially when I couldn't afford a new computer. He taught me important life lessons, like how to be self-reliant and invest wisely. He attended all my graduations and always gave me a card with $100 and a simple, heartfelt message, "Proud of you." When he passed away, I lost the only family member who genuinely valued me at the will reading. My grandfather's attorney revealed that he had meticulously divided his estate, leaving $200,000 each to Caleb and me, and $100,000 to our parents. He also stipulated that Caleb and I would share 50-50 its ownership of the house where my parents and Caleb lived. The attorney explained that my grandfather did this because he couldn't trust my parents to administer the estate honestly, given their favoritism towards Caleb, and he wanted to ensure I wouldn't be left with nothing. My parents were visibly shocked, while Caleb just stared at his shoes. It turned out my grandfather had sold his own home for $600,000 before his death to fund these provisions, making sure I was protected. With my $200,000 inheritance, I decided to open a restaurant, not because I loved cooking, but because my finance background taught me that a well-managed restaurant could generate consistent income. I spent months researching the Kansas City food industry and identified a need for upscale comfort food in the Crossroads district. The location I chose had good foot traffic and reasonable rent. I invested approximately $180,000 to start the business and hired an experienced chef named Andra, who had a strong background in high-end establishments. I continued working my finance job, trusting a manager to handle front-of-house operations. When the restaurant opened, I invited everyone, including my parents and Caleb, hoping they would finally be proud of my accomplishment. We had already received great local reviews and were booked solid for the first 2 weekends. However, my mother immediately suggested I should have partnered with Caleb, claiming he always wanted to own a restaurant. Caleb spent the entire opening night acting as if he owned the place, criticizing the menu and instructing staff. I smiled and said nothing, used to his behavior. The early days were incredibly tough. I worked my finance job from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., then went straight to the restaurant until midnight, spending weekends there dealing with everything from suppliers to staffing. Despite the long hours, it was worth it. We had regular customers, excellent reviews, and were even recognized as one of the top new restaurants in Kansas City. The business was profitable sooner than I expected, and I was genuinely proud of what I was building. Meanwhile, Caleb quickly squandered his $200,000 inheritance on parties, VIP tables, and rented sports cars in less than a year. His Instagram was full of pictures of expensive watches and lavish vacations. To make matters worse, he started telling everyone the restaurant was a family company, even introducing himself as the owner to potential business partners. Andre, my chef, told me Caleb was giving out his personal card to suppliers, claiming he made all purchasing decisions. One night, my bar manager showed me a $700 tab Caleb tried to claim as expenses. When confronted, Caleb simply shrugged, saying, "What's the big deal? We're family. The money all stays in the same pot." Then his girlfriend Vanessa became pregnant. Caleb had lied to her, making her believe he was a successful business owner. When she found out he was unemployed and broke, it didn't change his entitled attitude. If anything, the pregnancy made him even more determined to get a share of my business. The real family turmoil began when my mother called me for an important family meeting. When I arrived, about 20 relatives, mostly from my mother's side, were there. It was clearly an intervention, but not for Caleb. My father stood by the fireplace giving me his usual disapproving look. Caleb had his best friend, Travis, and our cousin Jake, who had been staying with my parents, with him. My mother announced Vanessa's pregnancy and their wedding plans, which everyone applauded. Then she turned to me and dropped the bomb. "Ethan, I know you've worked hard, but today I want you to think bigger. Think about your brother. Think about the child you're about to have in your life. I think you should make Caleb a owner of your restaurant." She argued that he needed a steady income, and family businesses should stay in the family, adding that he deserved an equal share without putting in any money. Family members nodded in agreement, with one even saying, "That's right, Ethan, the older brother. He should take care of his own." I sat there, stunned, for a minute. When I finally spoke, I asked if they were serious. "That restaurant is something I built with everything I had. I put $180,000 into it. I work 80-hour weeks managing it, and now you're telling me I should just hand over half to Caleb for nothing. I'm never going to agree to that." My mother immediately retorted, "Ethan, your brother is unemployed and about to become a father. We're a family. It wouldn't even affect you to share. You're being completely selfish." Can you let your nephew be born without anyone caring for him? I stood up and asked about the $200,000 Caleb inherited from Grandpa. Caleb quickly claimed he invested it and lost everything when the deal fell through. I laughed, exposing his lie, telling everyone I knew he'd spent it all partying, and even offered to show pictures of him throwing money around at strip clubs, and receipts for 3 motorcycles he bought and crashed. Caleb immediately lowered his head, and I saw hatred in his eyes. I then told my parents I wouldn't make him a conut. I built the business with my own hard work while he wasted his. The inheritance. I offered to make him a partner if they gave me $200,000 for his half, telling them they could do whatever they wanted with it. My father then stood up, grabbed his drink, and threw it at me, yelling, "Watch your tone. I'm still your father, and you're not going to disrespect me in front of this family." The room fell silent. I calmly wiped my face, put on my coat, and left, murmuring, "Thanks for reminding me where I stand in this family." Driving home, my phone buzzed with calls and texts from family members, some apologizing, others urging me to help Caleb. I ignored them all. My parents called and texted non-stop, my mother alternating between guilt trips and fake sweetness, and my father being more direct, saying I owed this to my brother. I blocked their numbers, but they started showing up at my house and the restaurant. One night, Caleb and Travis stormed in during dinner service, accusing me of stealing from my family and demanding part of the restaurant. I had to have them escorted out. My staff became nervous. My host quit after Caleb threatened her, and 2 servers requested alternate schedules. Andre, my chef, remained loyal, but I could tell the drama was getting to him. I spoke with a lawyer about a restraining order, but was told it would be difficult to enforce without actual threats of violence. The best they could offer was a cease and desist letter, which I personally delivered to my parents' home a few days later. My mother caused a disturbance at my office building, forcing security to escort her out. My employer expressed concern about personal difficulties affecting my professional environment, and I could tell my reputation had suffered. The situation escalated. One night, Andre burst in, telling me Caleb was arguing with the hostess. I found Caleb high, confronting our 22-year-old hostess and demanding a reserved table. I told him to get out, that he wasn't welcome. He cursed at me, saying it should be his place and that our dad was right about me being selfish. I told him to leave or I'd call the cops, and that's when he lunged at me. We crashed into a table, shattering dishes, and customers ran. He landed a powerful blow to my jaw, but I wrestled him to the floor. As security carried him out, Caleb yelled, "If I can't have it, you won't either. You hear me?" I filed a police report detailing the assault and threat. The authorities took witness accounts but said they could only arrest him for simple assault and trespassing without more evidence of an arson plan. Caleb was released on bail the next morning. Things went quiet for a while, and I started to believe Caleb had backed off, realizing he couldn't intimidate me. I should have known better. The restaurant immediately faced consequences. Several reservations were cancelled after news of the fight spread and negative Yelp reviews mentioning the family conflict appeared. I had to hire a security guard, an unexpected expense. Then, Andre called me in a panic, "The restaurant's on fire." I rushed across town, seeing an orange glow from blocks away. When I arrived, the street was sealed off by fire trucks, and my restaurant was engulfed in flames. I watched everything I had built burn to the ground. The fire chief approached me, confirming significant damage and asking how it might have started. I told him about Caleb's threat from the police report, stating, "I can't prove it was him, but I know it was." The next morning, I gave a statement to the police and fire investigators, detailing Caleb's threats and the restaurant brawl. Detective Harper, assigned to the case, noted the family conflict. She stated that arson cases are complex and take time to build, requiring proof of not just arson, but also who committed it beyond a reasonable doubt. After leaving the station, I called Caleb. He answered casually, feigning ignorance about the fire. He chuckled, implying I couldn't prove anything, and I knew 2 things. He did it, and he thought he was untouchable. The fire investigation team classified it as arson. Someone had broken in through the back and sprayed accelerant. The main surveillance cameras were off, but Andre had installed a new one in the kitchen to monitor food deliveries. The footage, though not perfectly clear, showed 2 men, one resembling Caleb and the other Travis, pouring something onto the floors and counters before lighting a match. Their faces weren't distinct enough for a definitive identification. For the next few weeks, I dealt with insurance adjusters, displaced staff, and inquiries from suppliers and customers. The financial impact was immense, with a high deductible and limited business interruption coverage. I regularly contacted Detective Harper. They were collecting phone data, questioning witnesses, and building their case. My insurance company also dispatched their own investigators, requiring detailed paperwork because arson triggers fraud investigations. My parents then showed up at my house uninvited, demanding I drop the charges against Caleb. My mother cried, saying he might have made a mistake but was still my brother. I retorted that burning down my business and destroying livelihoods was a felony, not a mistake. My father then asked me to tell the police I didn't want to pursue the case, as Caleb was facing serious prison time. I firmly replied, "Good. He should be." My mother accused me of being cold and not caring about what this was doing to them. I pointed out that Caleb was responsible, not me. My father tried to blame me for not helping Caleb, but I interrupted him, saying Caleb was an adult who made his own choices, and they had enabled his behavior his entire life. My mum pleaded with me to help Caleb for the sake of his unborn child, but I refused, saying Caleb should have thought about that before committing arson. My father then accused me of being jealous and wanting to destroy Caleb. I told them to leave. As they walked away, my mother said my grandfather would be ashamed. I replied, "He raised me to stand up for myself, something you never taught me." After they left, I realized they would always prioritize Caleb, and in their eyes, I was the villain for not sacrificing myself to protect him. A breakthrough came unexpectedly. The owner of a gas station near the restaurant provided clear security footage showing Caleb and Travis buying and filling 2 gas cans with their credit cards. When search warrants were executed at their homes, the police found Caleb's texts outlining the plan. "If I can't have half the restaurant, neither can he." They also found clothing with traces of accelerant matching what was used in the fire. The district attorney's office filed formal charges against Caleb and Travis for second-degree arson, conspiracy, criminal mischief, and insurance fraud. Travis immediately began negotiating a plea agreement to testify against Caleb for lower charges. Detective Harper called to inform me they were in custody. Caleb would finally face consequences. The day after his arrest, I visited Caleb at the county jail. He was unshaven with bloodshot eyes and in an orange jumpsuit. He smiled and asked if I came to help him. I just stared at him and asked, "Why?" reminding him the restaurant was the primary income for 26 employees. His smile vanished and he snarled that I was selfish and always got my way. I nearly laughed, telling him I worked for everything I had, while he had everything handed to him. He cursed me, saying I could have made him a partner. I calmly replied that it was mine to keep, and now it was gone. He smiled crookedly, asking how it felt knowing he took it from me. I stood up and told him he'd be in prison for years, and asked if it was worth it. His smile wavered, and he muttered that Mom and Dad would get him out. I turned to leave, saying, "Not this time." After visiting Caleb, I met with attorney Charles to discuss the house my grandfather left to Caleb and me. I wanted to take action there too. Charles explained that since Caleb and I owned the property, I could force a partition with sale, and given Caleb's legal troubles, it was a good time. My parents would have no legal right to stay if both owners wanted to sell. I told him to file the petition immediately. Charles advised me to cooperate fully with the prosecution in Caleb's criminal case and ensure they understood the impact on me and my staff. Over the next few months, I provided the prosecution with everything: financial records, employee payroll information, detailed reports of Caleb's threats, screenshots of his spending, and witness testimonies. The wheels of justice moved slowly, as Caleb's counsel filed motions for delays, but the district attorney assured me this was common. During this time, I focused on rebuilding. The insurance claim process was frustrating, as they investigated every detail to ensure I wasn't involved. I had to provide years of financial data and endure many interviews. Regarding the house, the partition action took time, but despite my parents' attempts to postpone, the judge ruled in my favor. The house was sold, and the money split between Caleb and me. Caleb's portion was placed in a court-supervised trust until his criminal matter was resolved. My parents were forced to leave the house they'd lived in for decades and severely downsize. I didn't feel satisfied, just a strange sense of closure. The house sold for $500,000, and my $250,000 portion was released to me immediately. Caleb's share was held in escrow as potential restitution for arson damages. During this time, Vanessa gave birth to Mason, whom I've never met. My parents sent me passive-aggressive pictures of him, which I deleted without responding. The financial impact of the fire was devastating. While waiting for insurance, I used my own funds to help struggling employees. Andre remained loyal, declining other offers as we planned our comeback, and I promised him a stake in the new location. Finally, Caleb's trial date arrived. Travis, who had already agreed to a 3-year plea deal in exchange for his testimony. The trial was brief due to overwhelming evidence. Surveillance footage, gas station receipts, text messages, Travis's testimony, and forensic evidence. I testified about the family gathering, Caleb's threats, and the incident at the restaurant. Caleb's attorney tried to portray it as a family fight, but the jurors weren't convinced. After only 6 hours of deliberation, they returned a guilty verdict on all counts. Caleb was sentenced to 8 years in jail for arson and related offenses, with the possibility of parole after 5. The judge also ordered him to pay nearly $150,000 in restitution from his share of the house proceeds. As the bailiff took him away, Caleb glared at me with hatred. My parents, sitting behind him, were devastated and didn't acknowledge me. The day after the sentencing, my mother texted me, asking to meet. When I arrived, they looked worn and aged. My father immediately said, "You got what you wanted. Are you happy now?" I calmly replied that I didn't want any of this, and Caleb made his own decisions. My mother, softly lamented Caleb's sentence, saying it was because I couldn't forgive him. I shook my head, reminding them he committed arson and destroyed my business. My father snarled that they expected me to be a brother and request leniency. I quietly explained it wasn't just a family dispute. He committed a serious crime. My mother reached for my hand, but I pulled away. She asked if family was meant to excuse everything. My father declared, "We're done with you. You're no son of mine. As far as we're concerned, we only have one child." Now, as I turned to leave, I added, "And he's in prison." My mother's voice followed me out, saying, "Don't contact us ever again. You have ruined this family." I walked out feeling strangely relieved. The last ties had been cut. The insurance company finally paid out the full amount, $230,000 for the facility and equipment, $45,000 for business interruption, and $25,000 for inventory loss. With my share of the house sale proceeds, I now had $550,000 to rebuild. Rebuilding took time, especially finding a suitable new location. I chose a more expensive spot in the River Market district with higher foot traffic and exposure. Obtaining permits and construction took months. Throughout the process, I kept in touch with my former employees, offering promotions, helping them to find temporary work, and promising their positions back. Andre stayed with me the entire time, helping design the new kitchen and testing menu items at pop-up events. I hired a new general manager, Logan, who assembled a team of excellent servers. The new location costs more but offered better visibility and parking, and the previous tenant's kitchen infrastructure saved us a lot on renovations. I secured a lease with an option to purchase after 5 years, thinking long-term. Despite everything, 3 investors approached me, offering capital for stock, but I turned them all down. After what happened with Caleb, I wasn't willing to give up any control. The new restaurant finally opened, bigger and better designed in a more prominent location. We upgraded everything: kitchen equipment, a wood-fired grill, a proper bar, and a private dining area. Andre created a menu combining his New Orleans background with Kansas City ingredients, and customers loved it. Opening night exceeded all expectations. Every table was booked. There was a line out the door, and a 2-week waiting list. Social media exploded with positive feedback. As I greeted guests, Detective Harper and her husband arrived. She told me Caleb's appeal was denied and that my parents had to sell their car to pay rent. Having spent all their money on Caleb's legal defense, I felt neither satisfied nor sympathetic. Later, old-time regulars toasted to come back stronger, and the entire dining area joined in. I had to step into the kitchen for a moment to compose myself. That night, we sold $15,000, more than double our best night at the old location. By the 3rd month, we were consistently profitable and needed a waiting list for weekend reservations. I gave Andre 15% ownership and Logan 5%, with the potential to increase based on performance. These were more than just sound business decisions. They were about building a dedicated team. I received a letter from Vanessa saying she and Caleb had broken up and she was raising their son alone. She apologized for her role in the family strife and asked if I wanted to see my nephew. I haven't decided yet. My relationship with my parents is non-existent. They send guilt-ridden cards, but I don't respond. The restaurant is thriving. We've added lunch service, hired new chefs, and are exploring opening a second location. The fire was meant to ruin everything, but it forced me to rebuild something better. Later, as the staff finished up, Andre brought out drinks, declaring to rise from the ashes. We clinked glasses, and I looked around my new restaurant, growing despite Caleb's attempts to ruin it. Sometimes, getting even isn't the best revenge. It's moving forward and succeeding while they remain trapped in the mess they created.